to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Wednesday, May the 7th. I'm your host, Michael Leva, flying solo today as I'm going to talk about a couple issues in the world of the Miami Dolphins. The past few days, I've had on a lot of interviews with these college reporters. I hope you've enjoyed them as we get to learn a little bit more about the rookies Miami has drafted. I was working on one with someone who covers the University of Arizona football to get some more information about Jonas Salavea. I'm already saying the name wrong. But I've had trouble scheduling that, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But I am working on a lot of interviews here to sort of get us through this offseason until we get to training camp. So I hope you enjoyed them. More interviews to come, not just about rookies, about other things in general. And I'm working on a really, really big one right now. Hopefully I can have that to you relatively soon. So just want to give you an update on that. But today's show is going to be me running my yap, talking about two issues concerning the Dolphins right now. As we are in early May, 1 week out from the scheduled release, which we'll have a show that night as well. But before I get into the news I want to talk about on today's show, first off, if you're watching this on YouTube, let's all take a second right now, smash the like button. Smash it. Let's get it out of the way. Top of the show. Smash that like button. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, but really smash the like button. Also, shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com for the very best and the most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you live in South Florida, be sure to visit their location at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. They have it all there on site, but if you don't live in South Florida, the website, caneswear.com. If you need a Miami Dolphins jersey, hat, hoodie, windbreaker, shorts, swim trunks, golf shirt, polo shirt, t-shirt, any shirt, caneswear.com is the place to go. They also have stuff for the Miami Hurricanes, of course, as well as the Florida Panthers, the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, and some of the other college teams in the state of Florida. Caneswear.com has it all. It's the place to go. So when you're shopping online for something new for the Miami Dolphins that you want to wear, first go to caneswear.com, check them out. And if you haven't signed up yet for Dolphins Talk Extra, what are you waiting for? Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. $3 a month. That's all. You pay more on that. You pay more for a slice of pizza or for a cup of coffee. For $3 a month, you get bonus podcasts. Some about the Dolphins, some not. You might get an early release of a podcast interview I've recorded before the general public gets a chance to hear it. We have a private message board. So if you don't like Twitter and social media in general, we have a private message board just for extra members where it's a little bit more laid back and civil, and we have a lot of fun. Plus, we run a ton of contests where we give away hats and autographs and all that stuff. Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. All right, so the theme of today's show is going to be the latest with Jalen Ramsey, the latest with Tyreek Hill, and then I'm going to wrap it up with, I hope the Miami Dolphins have learned a lesson with these two situations that they currently find themselves in, because if they haven't learned this lesson, then this organization is hopeless. But before we get to that, let's talk Ramsey. There was a report from Armando Salguero from Outkick, who said that the Miami Dolphins have spoken to the Rams, the Falcons, the Lions, the Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles, and other teams regarding trading Jalen Ramsey. And that the issue isn't the compensation, which we've kind of heard about along the way. Compensation isn't the issue, and that the Miami Dolphins have kind of made peace with, they're probably going to get back a fifth-round pick. Nothing more for Ramsey, maybe a fourth, but most likely just a fifth-round pick. The issue is obviously the cap hit and how much money any new team who is acquiring Ramsey will take on. Because right now it's May 7th, and since we're past the NFL draft, any chance a trade would happen now seems unlikely. It's not impossible. Ian Rappaport did say on the Pat McAfee show this week that if the right trade did present itself, Miami would trade him now and eat all the money, but it's got to be the right trade, meaning it's probably got to be more than a fifth-round pick. And that just seems unlikely. Post June 1st, the trade is easier from a Miami perspective because of you can split the cap hit over 2025 and 2026, and it's a smaller cap hit this year for the Miami Dolphins. But here's the factor nobody's talking about. Is all these teams who are interested in trading for Ramsey, yeah, they're interested in trading for Ramsey, but they probably want him to take a pay cut. And if Jalen Ramsey refused to take a pay cut for any of these teams, he might be near impossible to trade because there's been a lot of reports on why Ramsey wants out and what was asked of him and who said what to. There was a report Ramsey, he didn't ask for a trade. No, but his agent did. So it's kind of like the same thing. It's just a play on words. And there's been talks that Miami asked him for a pay cut. Of course, they say no, but stuff's gotten leaked. Yeah, they really did. And if he wouldn't take a pay cut to stay in Miami, would he take a pay cut to go to the Rams? Would he take a pay cut to go to the Eagles? And didn't he run away from Vic Fangio because, which I was told he was one of the people who wasn't a big fan of Vic. Would he go to the Eagles? So there's a lot of questions of trading him might not be as easy as just wait till after June 1st, trade him when it's easier. This leaves Miami with a total mess on their hands. And I know there's a segment of fans of the Dolphins, because I've seen them a lot more in the past week or so, as their frustration starts to build, like, why can't we just trade this guy? Saying, F it, don't trade him, force him to play in Miami. Just force him to play in Miami this year, F it. And in theory, yes, you could. In reality, you really can't, though. Because you are going to kill your locker room and you are going to kill the culture around this team before the season even starts. Again, there's a lot of rumors of why this is happening. One of the rumors that I tend to believe actually is not even a rumor, it's something I've been told, is that, back in January, once Miami played its final game against the Jets and they were out of the playoffs, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel had their press conference and they talked about some players showing up late for meetings, and no matter how many times they find them, it didn't work. Well, from what I was told, Ramsey was one of those guys. So you can't bring a guy like that back because why would you want to? 1, 2, he clearly isn't going to change. 3, you've gone through this mess of trying to trade him now. You're going to bring him back. You still think he's going to show up on time for meetings and all that stuff. So you don't want to go through another entire season of that. 1. 2, you don't want him to poison the rookies thinking it's okay to act this way. It's okay to act this way. And those guys get that thought in their head. You want the rookies to, see a healthy locker room, to see a healthy culture. You don't want them to see those type of shenanigans. So there's a lot of reasons why just forcing him to stay and play really is just unrealistic. They could do it if they wanted to. It just seems very much unrealistic. But yeah, so that's where the Dolphins are with Ramsey. It sounds like they talked to damn near every team in the league. And I'm sure every team in the league would love to have him, but they're gonna want, Miami to pay a chunk of this salary he's due this year. And they probably also want him to take a pay cut. Or they're going to want Miami to pay for so much of the salary. It's tricky to say the least. I do think, as we sit here on May 7th, as I record this, I do think they'll be able to trade him post June 1st, but it's not going to be easy. And I think a lot of fans just think after June 1st, June 1st at 1 a.m. should be super easy to trade him. It's like, I don't know if it's going to be that easy. I could see this actually dragging out to mid-June or late June, even into July, because I think the back and forth they're going to have to do with the team on working out, not the compensation again, just the contract. Okay, you pay this much, we'll pay this much, this, that, and the other. It's going to be tricky because I don't see Ramsey taking a pay cut. Why would he? Put yourself in his shoes. Why would he? So there's that. Next, let's talk about our good friend Tyreek Hill, who is always in the news for one thing or another. And since I last did a show like this where I gave some thoughts and opinions, he's been in the news a few times. So first off, let's start with the news today on Wednesday on Snapchat, I guess. I mean, he's on all the social media channels. He put up some pictures showing himself in a hospital getting a second wrist surgery, laying in bed with a hand wrapped up. I don't know. Again, because it's Tyreek, we don't know if these are actually real or if he's just trolling. These could be pictures from this first wrist surgery that he's saying is a second. He's the type of player you cannot believe anything he says or posts because he, as fans often like to say, he just likes to troll. Well, he could be trolling for all I know. Because he's lost the benefit of the doubt with everyone, so I'm not going to assume it's real. But from all rumblings, it seems to be real. It seems to be real. So let's go under the assumption it's real. As I talk about this, that he did have a second wrist surgery today, or I guess maybe even yesterday, and he's just putting up the pictures now. Either way, there's that. And I see some fans saying, well, why did it take so long to get the second surgery? Well, I'm not going to go that far. I'm sure he listened to the medical professionals and they timed this out. So I'm not going to blame him for that, the time frame of this, because I don't know. Look, I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to play one on a podcast. When he had the first surgery and how much time he needed in between the first one and the second. So I'm not going down that road as I saw some fans were. But the second thing that really got him a lot of attention, more last week, was when he went on, and again, nobody's forcing him to do this. He goes on social media, causes the drama, and then it's like, well, I don't understand why there's drama. He went on social media and he listed his top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And he didn't mention Tua, which, again, is it fair? Yes, because Tua is not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Tua is not even a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, if I'm being honest. He's more like a top 20 quarterback. He's in that 15 to 20 range. If we're being objective, taking off the homer glasses. That's just me. You don't have to agree with me. That's how I see it. But it wouldn't be a big deal because he's not a top 5 quarterback. But when Tyreek, since he's been in Miami, he has overhyped Tua nonstop in every interview, social media, videos like this, and he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever played with. Tua's the greatest. I love Tua. Tua. Throws rose petals at his feet, tells him his farts smell like roses. Tua. And now he does this, which is a passive-aggressive shot at Tua and the Dolphins. It's passive-aggressive. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to – this goes beyond trolling. Because I see some fans, well, he's just trolling. Well, who's he trolling? His own quarterback? That ain't too bright. He ain't trolling fans. Fans don't give a shit if Tua's a top 5 quarterback or not. He's trolling his teammates. That doesn't seem like a healthy culture to me. He's not trolling fans with that. That's what fans think. Like when he says, I'm going to retire, I'm going to be a porn star, you're trolling the fans. This ain't trolling the fans. This is actually trolling his teammate and starting quarterback. So doesn't seem too bright to me, but that's what he said. And again, if he didn't, hype up Tua for 3 or so years in every interview, every chance he got, nobody would have batted an eye. But because he has, and now he's saying Tua is not one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the league, it makes headlines. And if you don't believe it, ESPN NFL Live on Tuesday, Jeff Darlington, maybe the best NFL reporter out there, said, and I quote, Tyreek being Tyreek is getting a little bit tiresome, I think, to some people. And that's Jeff Darlington, who is tied in with the Miami Dolphins as close as any reporter on planet Earth. So he's not just saying that to say it on TV. He's saying it because he's been told that, and he's been told that by someone inside the Miami Dolphins. That's a fact, Jack. So when Jeff Darlington's on TV saying that, it lets you know that the Dolphins have had it up to here with Tyreek Hill. And what blows my mind, what really blows my mind, is some of you Miami Dolphins fans are still defending this asshole Tyreek Hill. You say, oh, he's just trolling. Again, who's he trolling? His quarterback. He's not trolling the fans. And, if he's trying to – here's the deal. If he's trying to force his way out of Miami because he doesn't want to be here, spoiler alert, he is. He's sending a horrible message to 31 other teams because what they see from the outside looking in is they see a wide receiver who doesn't support his own quarterback and is throwing his own quarterback under the bus in a passive-aggressive way. And why am I going to want to add that guy to my locker room, especially when you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G off-the-field issues that he's putting up with as well. And he makes a ton of money, and I got to add that contract. So it's like he's making himself less attractive. If he's trying to get himself out of Miami, again, which he is, just shut up. If he shut his yap, didn't talk, he'd be easier to trade. And if Drew Rosenhaus or someone close to him hasn't told him that, then they're not doing their jobs, because Tyreek just makes it harder to trade him every time he talks. And then today, with these pictures from the wrist surgery, I see some fans on social media wishing him well. What are you wishing this asshole well for? He quit on you in the middle of the game. Okay, he quit on the team. He quit on his teammates. What are you wishing him well for? Have a little self-respect, Dolphins fans. This is a guy, you're essentially letting him take out his Johnson and piss in your face, and you're going, oh, thank you, Tyreek, thank you. This guy, for everything he's done off the field, has shown he's a bad guy. He's a bad person. He's a bad teammate. He's got the domestic violent incident just recently. He assaulted the guy at the marina. When he was in college, he punched his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach. He refuses to pay child support for any of these kids unless he's dragged to court and forced to pay by a judge. And you're wishing this scumbag well? These are the same Dolphins fans who clutch their pearls when the thought of they might trade for Deshaun Watson. I have daughters. I cannot support a team that has Deshaun Watson. But you're wishing Tyreek Hill well because he had wrist surgery. Man, be a human, and don't be that much of a jock-sniffing fan. I understand you want to see your team win. I understand you want to support the players on your team, but you can't be that much of a jock-sniffing, bathwater-drinking fan to kiss his fanny still after all this. Really, you don't have to – sometimes you just don't have to say anything, okay? You don't have to say anything. It just blows my mind that how some fans still, think that, oh, Tyreek's just having fun. Yeah, he's having fun at your expense. You're paying all this money, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about his teammates. He doesn't care. So that's this Tyreek situation. At least with Ramsey, he's probably getting traded. This is going to come to an end. With the Tyreek situation, unfortunately, he's probably going to be here for one more year. Although I do think if they get off to a rough start, the Dolphins, they might be able to unload him in late October at the trade, which I actually think they moved to the first week of November now, the league, at the NFL trade deadline. If the season is going south the first 6 or 8 weeks or so, they might be able to move him then and then just be rid of this whole debacle. We'll see about that. I don't know. But I think we're going to be stuck with Hill for one more year. And I'm telling you, it's going to be fascinating to watch, because if he's throwing a hissy fit week 18, when, third quarter, when he's, starting to realize they're going to be out of the playoffs, how's this guy going to act if they start the year 1-4, 1-5, 2-6, knowing everything that's sort of transpired? I got a feeling this has a chance to be an epic public meltdown, likes we haven't seen since Antonio Brown. And that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. Because I think if everyone's being honest with themselves, we all see how this is going to end. We all kind of know how it's going to end. Before I get to the final topic of today's show, quick shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, or one of the other hundreds of platforms are on, subscribe. I know it's the off season and news is kind of slow, but like I said, I'm going to try to do a few interviews a week to try to tie us over. There's always going to be news with Hill. There's always going to be news with Ramsey. We got that. And plus, we got some other shows and stuff as well to tie us over till we get to training camp. So we're going to keep you filled with Miami Dolphins content this entire offseason. So please, wherever you're listening to this show, hit the subscribe button. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button as well as the subscribe button. Okay, so we spoke Ramsey, we spoke Hill, and I hope the Miami Dolphins have learned a valuable lesson because both of those situations are going to end badly. We know one's going to probably end sooner than Ramsey. The Hill one might take till, next February, March ish to end. But if you're the Dolphins, and look, here's the deal. On this podcast, we keep it real. Chris Greer ain't going nowhere. I know everyone thinks he's on the hot seat. He ain't. He's like a bad penny. You can't get rid of him. He would survive a nuclear holocaust. Let's just call it what it is. This guy, even if he's no longer the general manager, he's going to be the VP of football operations or some title. He ain't going nowhere. Okay, so Chris Greer is here. If there's one thing I hope, and I think you should as well, one lesson he's learned from both of this Ramsey mess and the Hill mess is this. Just draft, develop, pay, and keep your own players. I'm not saying don't be active in free agency or the trade market, but don't use free agency in the trade market to find your core players, to build the foundation of your team. Why? 9 times out of 10, it won't work. Example, this, what we're dealing with right now. You want to use free agency in the trade to find the last missing piece or a complementary piece after your core and your foundation is in place. Chris Greer's biggest failure since 2019 wasn't missed picks in the draft. Everyone has a whiff or two. All general managers do. It's not about taking Noah in round 1 or Raekwon at the end of round 2 and how do you miss those picks or trading a third, moving up 8 spots for Liam Eichenberg. Every GM has stuff like that on their scorecard. It happens. Chris Greer's biggest failure is letting good players he drafted, they developed, letting them walk away, and then using and trading away future picks and giving big money contracts to Hill, Ramsey, Chubb. And I don't want to hear that, well, there you go. Those guys, the Wilkins of the world and the Hunts of the world, they wanted too much money. They priced themselves. He can't keep them. No. Chris Greer waited too long, and then they were too expensive to keep when he finally got his head in the game. And maybe if they weren't paying Hill, Ramsey, and Chubb, they would have had the salary cap space to keep those guys. And if they had to pay a little bit more to keep them, okay. Because you cannot tell me a good GM, not a great one, a good GM wouldn't have been all over Hunt and Wilkins with a fair market deal earlier than Chris Greer was and would have locked them up. Same with Holland and Jones at safety. A good GM would have been all over those young players earlier than what Greer was. And, I know some of the beat reporters love to protect Chris Greer because they need information from the Dolphins. So they got to protect Chris Greer and they'll spin all the bullshit to say, it's not Chris Greer's fault, not Chris Greer. Nothing's ever his fault. That's the thing with Chris Greer. And he's got some of the reporters in his back pocket locally who will protect him at all costs. This is his fault. This is his fault. Because when you're blowing draft picks and maxing out your salary cap on guys like Chubb, Hill, and Ramsey, you screwed yourself on the guys who should be here and wanted to be here, like Robert Hunt, like Christian Wilkins, like Javon Holland, like Brandon Jones, like Andrew Van Ginkel, the guys you drafted, you developed, who you just let walk away for a couple comp picks. Who gives a crap? That's the lesson I hope Chris Greer learned from this Hill and Ramsey debacle that we're in right now. You cannot. Adding big name players is always fun in the moment. Adding big name players is always makes a headline. It's splashy. We get to hold a press conference, lead story on ESPN. Oh, we got Hill, we got Ramsey, and all this stuff. And I get it, but the risk that you cannot build your foundation that way. And he had the piece. He drafted the foundation of this team. And yes, you need to use the draft. You need to use free agency and trades judiciously. You just can't be willy-nilly and just be like, F them picks. We're going to trade away everything, and we're going to add these big name guys, and we're going to let all these guys we drafted, we developed, we went through their growing pains with walk, and now they're going to excel with other teams, and we're going to roll the dice on big name guys who had their best days with other teams. Now, I understand the Hill trade in the moment was probably a very smart trade because Miami needed – he's one of the, top 3, top 5 wide receivers of all time. I get it. It backfired, but the Chubb trade was never needed. And the Ramsey trade, he's a guy who bitched and moaned his way out of Jacksonville and bitched his way out of the Rams. And I know they pretty much handed him away. The fact that they were handed him away for a 3rd round pick tells you all you need to know. And it's not just the trade and the picks. It's about having to pay them big money, which then pushed the players that you drafted who were good out the door. And it's a cycle that has caused Miami to fail in recent years. And yes, they have failed. I know a lot of Dolphins, Mike McDaniel made the playoffs 2 times out of 3 years. That's not failing. Yes, it is. Because with that much talent, and don't forget, he started 8-3 and 9-3, and they collapsed. No division titles, no playoff wins. That's failing. And every move Greer made with those trades, giving them huge money deals, and letting those other guys walk is blown up in his face. And that's why Miami's been a failure. That's why they've been a failure. And if the one lesson we learned from, because again, Chris Greer ain't going nowhere. I know fans like to think he is. He ain't. I've told you about clickbait reporters who try to plant this stuff in your head. He ain't. Every move this offseason he's made. Listen to previous shows I've done. Every move he's made this offseason shows he has job security. Okay? He just does. And Stephen Ross really doesn't want to move on from him either. That's a whole other aspect, which maybe someday I'll get into. But draft, develop, pay, retain your players, especially the good ones, and add a free agent or two here. Trade for 1 or 2. They did too much of it, and it caused this disaster of what we are sitting through now, which is why 2025 is a rebuilding year. And I don't know. It's gonna be tough this season. But that's the latest with Ramsey. It's the latest with Hill. And that's all I got for today's show. Everyone, thank you for listening. Again, Caneswear. Go to the website, caneswear.com. If you're in South Florida, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. The best, most affordable, reasonable priced apparel for the Miami Dolphins anywhere on the internet. You will find caneswear.com. They have it all, so check it out. Also, be sure to follow us on all social media channels at Dolphins Talk. And check out the website, dolphinstalk.com. We have a bunch of great writers putting out a bunch of great work. Like I said, more interviews to come here on the podcast. Be ready for that. Everyone have a great rest of your Wednesday night. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity. Hey, everyone. Mike here from DolphinsTalk.com. Real quick, I just want to give a thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, just want to say thank you for all the support you provide us here at DolphinsTalk.com and have over the many years. We thank you. It's much appreciated. Without you, there would be no us. I know there are so many other podcast options out there these days, whether it's true crime, the NBA, Major League Baseball, news, politics, and of course, other Miami Dolphins podcasts as well. We really do appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day, each and every day, to watch our stuff here at DolphinsTalk.com. Also, if you like this show and want more content from us, please be sure to sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. We have a private message board where you can interact with only extra members and ourselves here, the staff at the website. We have extra podcasts about the Dolphins and also extra podcasts not about the Miami Dolphins. And we give away a ton of prizes. We have a ton of contests that are exclusive to Dolphins Talk Extra members. We give away autographs, memorabilia, jerseys, hats, all that fun stuff. So everyone, please be sure to go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. It's $3 a month. It's really cheap. You'll have a lot of fun. Trust me. But once again, thank you so much. Everyone, have a great day.